I would like to extend a warm welcome to members of the Council, officers, members of the public and press, and our special guest, former Councillor John Ward, to our Council meetings this evening of the 9th of October 2023. Welcome to those who may be watching live on YouTube. I am Councillor Neville Penman, Chairman of the Council. Please note that the meetings are being broadcast live on the Council's website and on YouTube. This will remain available for a minimum of 12 months. Please switch off any mobile devices, including laptops, to a silent setting for the duration of the meetings. If the fire alarm rings this evening, please can everyone leave the room immediately and use the nearest fire exit. Please go to the fire assembly point, which is located at the bottom of the car park where the garages are. This evening we have two council meetings, a special meeting followed immediately by the ordinary council meeting. Chief Executive, do we have any apologies to report for this evening?
Thank you. Apologies for absence have been received from Councillors Steve Davies, Councillor Harrison, Haywood, Linford, Osborne and O'Sullivan, and for late attendance, Councillor Patrick Mambala. Are there any other apologies?
Agenda item 1, admission of John G. Ward to be an Honourable Alderman. Councillor Cleary, I understand you have a motion to put to the Council.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I do. Members of the Council, John was first elected to the District Council in 2003 to the Milton Ward. He was successfully returned on 4 occasions, serving a total of 20 years. From 2011, John served alongside me in the Fernhill Ward and was a fantastic ward colleague for the following 12 years. John was the Corporate Overview Panel Chairman for over a decade, leading on a number of hugely influential initiatives in the way this council has developed and modernised, from the early development of proposals to undertake an electoral review of the District Council, which culminated in the election of our 48 councillors to 26 new wards this year, to a number of changes to the council's governance arrangements, including the establishment of overview and scrutiny panels aligned to key council service areas. John worked closely with South East employers and was an outstanding representative of this council to external organisations. John also served on the Council's Leisure Review and Industrial Relations Committees and spent time as the Vice Chairman of the Audit Committee and before it the Final Accounts Committee. John, you've been wonderful to work alongside. You often help me to see a different perspective when taking difficult decisions, and I most sincerely thank you for that. I truly hope you and Joan enjoy your second retirement, and you will both always be close to my heart. Members, therefore, I have no hesitation in proposing the following motion: that in pursuance of the statutory powers them enabling, the Council hereby admits John G. Ward to the role of Honorary Alderman of the New Forest District in recognition of 20 years' eminent service to the Council and the District, and that the proper entry be made upon the role of Honorary Alderman of the District.
Councillor Christine Ward, I understand you will second and say a few words.
Thank you. I would be delighted to second this. What can I say about John? I didn't know John before I became a councillor, but then everybody thought I was his wife. And it's taken me years, not only in the council, but outside the council, to convince people that, no, we actually aren't even related. Although we do often quite meet up in our favourite fish and chip restaurant, but with our husbands and wives with us. So Jill's actually said a lot of what I was going to say anyway. So I just want to wish you the very best for the future. Enjoy your family life. It's so important. Just get on and enjoy it. Thank you.
I will now call any further speakers in turn. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. I've known John since, I think, 2007. And that's when I first joined New Milton Town Council. That's where I was introduced to his financial astuteness on the Finance Committee. When I joined this council in 2011, John was, as has already been stated, chair of the corporate panel scrutinising the finances of the council and ensuring that we achieve some financial efficiency, which of course we always do. But John helped us do that. He was, as Jill has already said, one of the instigators of looking at the council and numbers and the requirements needed that we need to represent the democracy of this council. And as has been said, has led to the current makeup of the council. John has been a hard-working and dedicated member of this council for 20 years, never actually seeking glory, just the satisfaction of a job well done. And well done it was, and he's earned the accolade of Alderman of the New Forest. I'm pleased to see this award tonight.
Councillor Jack Davis, please.
Thank you. I don't personally know Councillor Ward all that well, but I work with one of your neighbours, and they think they always saw you as a very diligent councillor, and so I would be very happy to support the motion.
Councillor Derek Tett, please.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Yes, I've served along Councillor Ward throughout his 20 years as a councillor, and many of them on the corporate overview and scrutiny panel. An excellent chairman he was of that panel too. I can think of no one more deserving of the honour of becoming an alderman. He served his community and this council with great distinction. Many congratulations, John. I look forward to seeing you, along with our other two honorary aldermen, at future council events. Thank you.
Councillor Macon-Wade, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm happy to support this. John Ward served on the District Council for 20 years. I was on the council before and when he started, and I saw that he worked really hard for the benefit of this. We put politics aside. Anybody that gives that amount of time to serve his or her community really deserve the respect that merits. I'm happy to support him as an alderman.
Councillor Cleary, would you like to sum up?
Thank you. I've known John for more than 20 years, and he's been an excellent district and town councillor throughout that period. We both share the desire to see things done correctly without waffle and with justification. And we don't always agree on the way to deal with a problem, but I can say John is a man of principle, and that's really important. So I highly commend this to John. It's well deserved. Well done, John.
Yes, I've known John Ward all the time that I've been a member of the council. He's had a big part in making me become, or persuading me to become a councillor. So, you know, it's his fault that you've got to put up with me. But yes, I've been on the town council for 12 years and known him all this time. We've worked together. We haven't always agreed. He's also a Progress member, which I'm passionate about, and so is he. Yeah, great guy, and his wife is fantastic. So well done, John.
Councillor Terry, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It does seem to me that perhaps John's surname has been a great influence upon his life. Anybody who has the surname Ward must surely be destined to be a ward councillor. In that respect, John has met that particular criteria. When you look at the word ward, you can add on 2 letters, E-N, and you become a warden. And I have a sense that throughout the 20 years or so that John has been a councillor, first and foremost, he has been a warden to his people. There is no greater responsibility we as councillors have than to our people, the people who have voted us in. And I'm sure that were the residents of New Milton able to be in this council chamber this evening, they would give testimony to his care and his compassion and the diligence in which he has attended to matters which concern them. On a personal level, I have great admiration for John. After his illness, many people would have said, I cannot continue as a councillor. It just isn't possible. But with great fortitude and bravery, John returned to this chamber to fulfill the role that he knew that was his. And so I congratulate him on becoming an alderman of this council. It is justified, and if there was to be a vote amongst the people of New Milton, the turnout would be great, and the result would be a 100%. Many congratulations, John, to you and your dear lady wife.
Councillor Cleary, would you like to sum up?
Thank you all for your comments. I think you will see that John has worked tirelessly in all that he has done, and I believe truly deserves this award.
Members, thank you for your contributions. I would like now to ask that the council agree to this motion. Are you agreed? Alderman Ward, would you like to address the council?
Thank you. Yes, I would like to say a few words and a few in thanks for this honour. I was, as you've already 20 years, and for 12 years as corporate overview, chairman of corporate overview panel. I served under 4 leaders, Mel Kendall, Barry Rickman, Edward Heron, and of course Jill Cleary, my colleague in what was then Fernhill Ward. In my first year, 2003, I was asked by the then leader to undertake a review of the scrutiny arrangements. And I did that with the leader of the Lib Dems at the time. I undertook a further review a few years later, and although, yes, there has been some changes, but those scrutiny arrangements are still in place today, broadly. The only thing of any substance to mention, the recent change in the council organisational structure that Jill has already mentioned, taking the number of councillors down from 60 to 48. This change to the size of the council was successful at the 3rd attempt. It wasn't the first attempt, 3rd, 2nd or 3rd. It was the 3rd attempt. The previous ones, I have to admit, were rejected by Conservative council because we were in the majority at the time. To say this was my last major involvement, the first I won't see actually implemented. However, I do hope that the more streamlined council is working. A few, but very important words now to the officers I've worked with. I was given the best advice that any councillor can be given. Make friends of officers, not enemies. always tried to maintain that throughout. I have worked with many officers over those 20 years, and I thank them all. But I would like to thank three in particular, and these three were the three that helped me most in my earlier years when I was chairman of COP. Rosemary Ruttins, who many of you will still remember, Garanya O'Rourke, who's still there, and Andy Rogers. Thank you to them and to all the officers of the council, right to the various chief executives I've worked with. Thank you, councillors, for the honour. I am not sure that it does entitle me to drive a flock of sheep down Lyndhurst High Street, but it won't matter. I haven't got a flock of sheep. Thank you, councillors.
Members, arrangements will shortly be made to formally add Honourable Alderman Ward to the role of Honorary Alderman on the Honours Board here in the Council Chamber. That concludes this special meeting. I will now move to the agenda of the ordinary council meeting. Honourable Alderman Ward, you are most welcome to stay and observe our ordinary council business or leave the meeting if you wish.
He's done enough.
He's going, is he? I think he's going. Apologies are those as noted earlier this evening. Agenda item 1, minutes. Do members agree the minutes of the meeting held on the 11th of September 2023 as a correct record? Agreed?
Agreed.
Councillor?
Chairman, minute 28. You'll be shocked to know that I don't believe this council has had the answer from the portfolio holder that he was supposed to be emailing around after the last two times of the question I asked. Whether the portfolio holder is not really concerned about expenditure of public money on community safety, or whether he just doesn't understand the process, how the council works. But this is the third council meeting where I'm waiting for an answer.
Chairman, I could come back if you will allow. I've also got something to raise under 28. I was actually trying to spare the honourable members blushes, as he'd already asked the question just a couple of months before, and the answer has not changed from a couple of months before. You had it earlier in the year, Councillor Wade.
No, I've not
You've
had
had
this
the answer to that question earlier in the year. So I was trying to spare your blushes. I wouldn't like to make the comparison to the saying about asking the same question over and over and expecting a different answer.
We'll now move on. Jack Davis?
Thank you. Just regardless of the argument over, whether you're correct or not, would you be willing to resend it to Councillor Wade?
Yes,
As I'm
I
sure
would.
you've got it in your inbox. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. On this meeting. Agenda item 3, Chairman's announcement. Israel. Members, I would like to express this Council's solidarity with the people of Israel in light of the ongoing violence in the region. Our thoughts tonight are with those affected. As a Council, we will continue to work with our partners to support local communities, recognising the impact of those recent events. Former Councillor Graham Wells. Members, it is with great sadness that we learned recently of the passing of former Councillor Graham Wells. Graham was first elected in 1983 to the Lymington Town Ward and served continuously for 12 years until 1995. Graham served most notably on the Policy and Resources and Housing Committees. He was Vice Chairman of the Housing Committee from 1987 to 1989. He represented the District Council on a number of local outside bodies, including the Lymington Harbour Commissioners and Lymington CAB. Members, I would like to extend our sincere condolences to Graham's family and friends and place on record this council's thanks for his service to the district. Members, I am pleased to report on the engagement I have undertaken since the last council meeting. On the 13th of September, I attended the Civic Day of the Mayor of Christchurch and was provided a guided walking tour, taking in some historical points presented by the Christchurch History Society. There was also an escorted tour of Christchurch Priory, where volunteers discussed the story of the Priory, which went back to at least the middle of the 11th century. The Mayor of Test Valley hosted a showcasing event on the 14th of September. This involved a great presentation and an interesting tour of the Army Flying Museum. 19th of September was the Basingstoke-and-Deane Borough Council Civic Afternoon. There was an introductory meeting with the Collector's House Manager, Dominic Shamby, and then a tour of Vine House and the gardens. On the 21st of September, I attended the grand open of Namist Hub Dementia Unit and cut the ribbon to officially open the hub in Hythe. Meeting the staff and residents was extremely rewarding and interesting. Applemore Leisure Centre was the location of the NFD Charity Football Tournament on the 29th of September. I enjoyed presenting a trophy to the winning team from revenue and benefits. This raised money for one of my charities, the Minstead Trust, and I'd like to thank the officers for that. On the 1st of October, I attended a traditional harvest Thanksgiving in Winchester, bringing together traditions, readings, hymns, and choral music. I also provided a donation towards the Winchester Food Bank. This was followed by the Winchester Green Week gathering. The chair, Joe Cocker, and Cadet Lizzie Kitchenside of Salvation Army provided a talk, and the Cathedral Girls Choir and renowned soprano Lucy Hull sang. The Winchester's dance team also took part. On the 7th of October, I attended the Mayor of Basingstoke-and-Deane's variety show with funds raised in support of the Mayor's charity appeal. On the 8th of October, I attended the High Sheriff of Hampshire's Law Sunday service. And finally today, I joined Her Royal Highness, the Princess Royal at Avon Turrell, the UK Youth's Outdoor Learning Centre, a charity which seeks to equip young people to thrive at early stages of their lives. Agenda item 4, Leader's Announcement. Leader of the Council, do you have any announcements?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm delighted to update the Council on our efforts to continue to protect our local and global environment. We're adding 4,500 tonnes of shingle to Milford-on-Sea Beach to improve beach levels and help protect the seawall ahead of the winter. We'll also be repairing 3 groins located opposite the Needle's Eye Cafe. Our coastal team expect the work will take several weeks, depending on tidal and weather conditions. The coastal team are also continuing to work with partners on the vital flooding and coastal erosion risk management strategies, which together cover our most vulnerable sections of coastline from the border with Christchurch to Lymington. Later in October, subscriptions will be open for our new wheelie bin garden waste service. This is the first step of our transformation of waste and recycling services. Bins will be rolled out to customers after Christmas, with collections due to start in April next year. And finally, I was pleased to see a great example of partnership working in action last month. Members of our environmental enforcement team worked closely with colleagues from Hampshire Police Forestry England, the National Park Authority and Lyndhurst and Minstead Parish Council, spending a morning in Lyndhurst checking vehicles and waste carrier licences as part of our efforts to reduce fly tipping. Out of 89 vehicles checked, 8 notices were issued to vehicles. Thank you.
Agenda item 5, Report of Cabinet, 4th of October 2023. Members, dealing first with part 1, I will call each item to see if any member wishes to speak on the items resolved by Cabinet. Item 1, Tenant Engagement Strategy. No. It's fine. Item 2, Community Infrastructure Levy Framework for CIL Expenditure. Are there any speakers? And second the recommendations as we move through the reports. Item 3, Medium-Term Financial Plan 2023 onwards. Councillor Herron, will you introduce this item and move the recommendations from Cabinet on the 4th of October?
Thank you, Chairman. Happy to introduce the item and to propose the recommendations as set out in the paper. Thank you.
Councillor Cleary, will you second?
Yes, Chairman, happy to second.
Are there any speakers? Councillor Davis.
Thank you. Councils across the country, as we know, are going bankrupt because the government are using them to effectively deflect the blame for service cuts and funding cuts. We're one of the lucky councils that aren't going bankrupt, or at least we hope not to go bankrupt. Conservatives are the blame for this, and we know this will only get worse over the next year because the Conservatives know they're on their way out, so they don't care. I just would like Conservative councillors in this chamber to, I don't know, show a little bit of embarrassment that you're part of a party that has allowed the state of local government finance to get to this point. And I think it's, frankly, disgusting that we're not getting this sorted as it should be. Thank you.
Councillor Herron first.
Chairman, I think that bears a response, don't you? I'm delighted to advise the member opposite, Councillor Davies, that we are not going bankrupt. We are in a strong financial position due to over 20 years of prudent financial management by a Conservative administration, despite many attempts for that to be sabotaged by alternative budgets put forward by the Liberal Democrats, at which they wish to spend reserves and deplete the council's resources in an attempt to buy an electorate, I think, is possibly what we would class it as. And I'm delighted that our medium-term financial plan, although showing that there are, in the future, some challenges, that we are already moving to address those challenges and ensure that this council remains on a firm financial footing, unlike a Liberal Democrat council not far from here, which is having to look at special measures.
Councillor Glass, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was going to agree very much with what the portfolio holders just said. When you're criticising the parties that are going bankrupt, look at which parties they are. The Tories, by being prudent, using the money carefully and keeping some in reserve for a rainy day, well, it's poured down all this year and we've managed to
sustain a good economy. I think the whole statement by the opposition is a pure ruse. Thank you.
Councillor Wade, please.
Thank you, Chairman. But at the end of the day, I'm afraid, we have had a Conservative government for 13 years. And the big problem has been the reduction of finance to local government. That's the officers, is it? They believe in small governance and they're stripping us financially. And that's the root of the problem. I'm sorry, you're part of the problem, not the solution. And Councillor Heron clearly has a much understanding of the technicalities of the other issue, which I tell you is not correct, a bit Dan's Paul earlier. The last two Liberal Democrat budgets did not use reserves, in fact. We actually had a balanced budget and did not affect the medium-term financial plan. It was just doing things in a different way for the benefit of the people of the New Forest. And I think that is something that you can put as much money as you like in the pot. And you do. You every year, you whack money into reserves, whack money into reserves, whack money into reserves. Some of that needs to be used for the benefit of the people of the New Forest. And you're not doing it. There are a lot of people who are struggling. There are a lot of people who have working families who live on the breadline. And what could we do to make a difference? You can nod your heads and all that because you're all right. But you're not the ones that need the support. There are others that do.
Councillor Wade first, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I just had a couple of questions from the report. I noticed in item 4B.4, it says, in medium term, 300k is being removed from community safety to capital. And I wondered why in particular community safety, when it's such a prevalent issue, and where is this money coming from, and what projects or works are going to be affected by this. And I also wanted to ask with regards to the portfolio holders with fee and charges, and unless I've read this incorrectly, up to 20% will be a portfolio holder decision. Does that mean, with this lack of scrutiny, that effectively councils can call in these decisions each time it happens? It seems quite a significant amount to have without council scrutiny. And just one minor point, I did wonder when we're going to play other local councils bingo, but most of the councils we talk about were Conservative until recent May elections when it comes, and it's the Conservative government who've cut local funding. I think we all collectively should be angry at them for the hard work that our councils are having to face because of the government.
Councillor Murray, please.
No, I'd like to retract my statement, thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I know with this council it won't be akin to what happened 13 years ago when you go into the cabinet room and find a little note saying, sorry, we've spent all the money. The reason being, we're careful with what we spend. Yes, we have pots, we need to keep the pots because we don't know and we can't see what's going to be happening in the next 4 or 5 years. One thing I would say is that I think the Lib Dems have a fair bit of work to do to get anywhere in the election. I think you might finish up with a different party, perhaps, but you're still going to find it difficult. Thank you, Chair.
Councillor Herring.
Chairman, I think that I answered most of the questions at the time of Cabinet. Any specific questions, I will get back to the member if he wants to get back to me afterwards, but specific questions at this point, I think I don't necessarily have the answers at my fingertips for exactly what he wanted. In fact, I didn't record all the questions he had, so if he wants to put a written question to me on some of the issues that he had, I'll be happy to get back to him on that.
Members, we will now go to the vote on the medium-term financial plan from A to D in the report from Cabinet. All those in favour, please indicate.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. In favour?
Any against?
take it.
That's carried. Item 4, annual fees and charges for 2024, car parking and Key Haven moorings. Councillor Blunden, will you introduce this item and move the recommendations from Cabinet on the 4th of October?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'd like to present and move the report.
Yes, I'm happy to second this report.
Thank you, Chairman. The Tory administration, despite the inflationary pressures, did not raise car parking charges last year. It might have impacted their re-election chances, preferring to have a huge rise once they had retained the running of the council. So we're now faced with this Cabinet recommendation before us. A 57% rise of £80 on the long stay clock, 63% rise of £25 on the quarterly long stay clock, and a 33% rise of £10 for the short stay clock. Chairman, I wish to propose an amendment to this recommendation in regard to the increase in parking clock prices, which affects New Forest motorists. I do this for two reasons. Firstly, we're still in a cost of living crisis, and yet we are targeting our own residents who buy the clocks with the rise in clock prices. Once and again, milking the local motorists. We know the modern Conservative Party is all about chaos and U-turns, but the Prime Minister announcing the end of the war on motorists, just as Conservatives here announce eye-watering inflation-busting rises, is parking clocks is extreme even by your standards. Or is this administration splitting from the main Tory ranks? Question to ask. Secondly, it's a double whammy for local businesses. Not only pushing shoppers to out-of-town superstores with free parking, just reducing footfall in our towns and village centres, it also adds a significant overhead to local businesses who purchase the long stay clocks for their staff. For a business employing 5 staff in a town centre, the cost of the clock rises to £1,100. The fact it has been quoted by Conservative councillors only a small cost per day does not change the fact it's a huge rise and another burden on hard-pressed New Forest residents. I wish to support local businesses and protect the volume of footfall in our town and village centres and not add extra cost burden to local motorists using our car parks. Therefore, I propose the following amendment to the prices of the clocks. Recognising there was no rise last year, I propose a rise roughly in line with inflation, currently of around 6.7%, rounded up slightly for administrative ease, as follows. The short stay clock rise from £30 to £32. The long stay clock a rise from £140 to £150, and the long stay quarterly clock a rise from £40 to £43. Thank you, Chairman.
Have you got a seconder? Jack Davis.
I'm happy to second. I have to speak on now.
Can.
Okay. I want to come back to the point about buying votes because this is a perfect example. You knew this was coming, and it's a massive increase. It could have been spread over 2 years, but there was an election earlier this year, and so we're faced with a massive rise now. During a cost of living crisis caused by this very out-of-touch Conservative government, and, sorry, speaking of the government, and I'm going to come back to a point made by Councillor Craze, which is about sensible financial policies. This thing was blown out of the water by Liz Truss's, the Conservative Prime Minister, for, I think, 45 days? 49, oh, that much. Her attempt to force through unfunded tax cuts for billionaires. So you can't really claim to be financially sensible, can you? You've just paused, or you're attempting to pour misery on residents in the New Forest with a massive increase in parking clocks, all for your own political gain, or, again, for your political gain in May. To paraphrase the Conservative Prime Minister currently, Rishi Sunak, is it all a bit short-term decisions for a poorer future?
Thank you, Chairman. A sort of phrase comes to mind, there's, lies, damn lies, and then the use of percentages.
Yeah.
We quote these massive percentages, but actually, why don't you actually just look at the figures and actually look at what other councils charge? This council provides the best value for parking virtually anywhere in the country. If you buy a clock, to stay in the short-term car parks, it will be £40 a year. Just do the sums across each week and see how much that costs. If you use those car parks, then you'll actually save even more money in actual respect, because it's good value. Go into BCP and use a car park there. You'll pay a darn sight more than you pay in the New Forest. If you actually go now to a supermarket, they limit the time that you can be there. And supermarkets like Tesco, Sainsbury's and other such supermarkets now give you fixed penalty notices because in actual fact they have to maintain the value of their parking. New Forest District Council provides the best value car parking, and in fact, contrary to what Councillor Wade says about driving people to the out of town options, it actually encourages people to use the local shopping centres because it is so cheap to come and park. So I say, come to the New Forest, use our facilities and use our parking.
Councillor Cassell, please.
I'd just like to make a remark, actually. I keep hearing about elections last year and why we're all doing what we're doing now. I thought we were in the New Forest District Council, not a political arena for next election. Yeah. We've got the next election coming up anyway, so if we wanted to make a point, maybe not do it this year, maybe do it next year or the year after. There's always an election coming up. It's not really a very good excuse. And I'm sick of hearing about the political agenda because you're making political comments.
Councillor Rackham, please.
Thank you. I completely agree with Councillor Wade's suggested amendment. 56% on any service that we provide is just too much. It's inexcusable. It affects the businesses who the only way that they can have people parking and working for a day, it affects the way that they'll be able to pay for their parking if they pay for employees' parking. On top of that, it affects the way that people use those businesses in the town centres, because actually it means that people will be paying a lot more to use the car parks than they have done in the past. And on top of that, it takes people from the car parks to local roads to park, where they can park for free. And that's inexcusable as well. What you're doing is driving people from the car parks. I suspect that you'll sell a lot less clocks as a result of this. Thank you.
Councillor Hilary Brown.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask what modelling had been done in terms of putting the prices up this much. I don't want to be political at all. I'm just coming from the point of view of residents and businesses. I myself buy all my employees one of these clocks. It will hit my business now. This is a lot more money for me to pay. I will pay it, but there will be businesses that won't pay it. And that will mean that their employees will have to go and find free parking elsewhere. It will be on the roads around Lyndhurst, it will be on the roads around Totton, it will be on the roads around the rest of the New Forest, where people already complain that people are parking in those roads, they can't get out of their streets, they can't park in front of their houses. So I'd like to know what modelling was done to see what impact that would cause and how that is going to be managed, because I can guarantee that as councillors, we'll all get people coming to us saying, I can't park in my street, I can't get out my street, what have you. Talking about other councils, I know that if you go and park in Romsey, it is £1 for 2 hours in Romsey Town Centre and it's free after 4 o'clock. We are not cheap as New Forest District Council. We're putting ourselves way out of what other councils charge, apart from Southampton, which is a massive city and people have no other choice of going. People have a choice of coming here for a holiday. They don't have a choice of coming here to work, but they will have a choice of parking on a road, parking in the forest car parks so visitors can't come in. So I would like to know what modelling you did and how you're going to, what contingencies have been put in place if there are issues going forwards.
Councillor Glass, please.
Thank you. I agree, we hate to put up prices, but we're not an island completely adrift from anywhere else. world costs have gone up. Yeah, can I finish, please? So everything has gone up, and even the maintenance of car parks goes up. So unless we charge enough to cover the cost of looking after, servicing, cleaning, maintaining our car parks, who else is going to pay? The magic money tree that Malcolm uses is dying. The real fact of life is that someone has to pay, and if we don't charge it to the people using the car parks, the people who don't use the car parks are going to get clobbered, because the money has to come from somewhere. So although we hate putting prices up, we feel this is totally justified. Thank you.
Councillor Way first, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. It's just a couple of points that I picked up from the report that slightly puzzled me. Again, I don't think anyone in this room has an issue with the prices being raised. It's just that when points are made in the report at 3.5, that even if we did it by inflation since 2018, it's 40%. So that's the long stays 196, an additional 56, not 220. So it seems that we've gone from not making improvements for the few years in the rises to a very drastic, unplanned, dramatic rise. And it seems really poorly planned and managed. I think the significant amounts that we've charged off are too much at this time. And when I do speak to local businesses in my community, when you look at the comparisons to Fareham, Fareham is a large town. That is the high street in the centre. That's where all the shops and the bigger names are. We've got a collection of smaller towns and villages with more independent shops and traders that absolutely rely on footfall, and people will still have to go to their bigger shops. So they're going to be dramatically impacted by this. So I don't buy the town centre comparisons that are used in here significantly. I don't think Fareham is a like for the Forest. I'm glad that they're starting to work on a strategy moving forward, because I don't see a strategy since 2018. 2019, I note it wasn't raised, but in 2 years' time, obviously, we also had a pandemic. So obviously, let's account for the fact that no one was using our car parks because of that time as well. So you wouldn't have risen it. So I think this is too much on one go, and I do support the amendment that's made. Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I actually totally agree with Mr. Wade, or Councillor Wade here, and I do agree to his amendment. You were stating there, Mr. Glass, a while ago about the increased pricing and that everything is going up and up. I totally agree that everything is going up and up, but if you look at most people around my district, and most of the people that are actually in the working place, you can ask them the question and see what they actually state to you. Their salaries are not going up to the status, what you've actually stating here for the parking clocks. They're going to be struggling. I've noticed, like where I actually live in my district, that more and more cars are parked up the alleyways, they're parked up behind the car parking areas, like the people's car parkways. I alone had to pay out £360 this week because somebody was actually parking in my area and backed into my car. So I beg to differ on what you've actually just stated there. I really do beg to differ, and you really need to open your eyes around here and look at the local people and take their opinions on board and reduce these prices so that they can actually afford to actually stay within the Lymington and Pennington, and they can actually work within Lymington and Pennington. Because most local people, I think you're a little bit out of touch here, most local people in our area are moving to Bournemouth, Southampton, to the Midlands to work, because they cannot afford to pay the rates that are going up at the moment, and now you want to just put a dagger in their back and increase these rates for the parking clocks. I totally disagree with that. Thank you.
Please.
Thank you, Chairman. Might I make briefly 2 points? The parking clock is something that is valued, I might even say loved, by the residents of the New Forest. They have been used to using this particular parking arrangement for over 25 years and have enjoyed the benefit that a parking clock brings. I see no evidence that residents are unwilling or unable to pay for a parking clock. Those who have thought about it and park in other places realise the immense benefit that a parking clock brings to the New Forest. That's the first point I want to make. The residents are content and happy. I hold a surgery once a month. I've never had one person come and say to me that the parking clock was something that they felt was a waste of money and they didn't want it, and they'd sooner put money in the meter, as was previously suggested. The second point I want to make is this. Councillor Wade, you indicated that you felt a rise of 6% would have been a fair one. Am I correct? In line, I'm delighted to hear that. I really am, because does it not mean to say that any future spending by the Liberal Democrats will be pegged to 6%? Now think about that. Think about that. Any spending that you want to bring in will be pegged to 6%. Do you think you can run a council on just an increase of 6%? And the answer to that is, follow the example of Eastleigh, and you'll prove that you can't.
Now go back to Malcolm Wade, the mover of the amendment, please.
Chairman, I'm talking about this specific incident, this specific issue now, not about the future. And using that is a really poor argument. You're much more articulate and think of better things to say than that. That's very poor. The reality is, actually, I can say this as well. The reality is the amount of money to maintain car parks is £400,000. Right, it is, because the officers have told me. And the amount of money you get from the current car parking clocks rates is about 1.2 million. So all of this is profit. So all you're going to do is to get more profit at the expense of motor.
Councillor Blunden, please.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. An interesting debate. First of all, on reference was made that suddenly we're putting up the charges. I think it's very commendable that actually we've been able to hold these charges in some cases for the last eight years. So it's not just a new thing, so I think that's pretty good. Using the percentage rises is a headline. It always is, and clearly you've got to study what is there and look at what is value for money. Talking about value for money, a lot of benchmarking has been done for parking clocks, and in reality, the situation is quite stark. New fees for long stay clock will be £220. That versus Chichester at 704, Fareham at 512, and Test Valley at 680. Now, for regular users of a long stay car park, and that is those who use it every day for work, is still great value for money. If you assume that 220 days, working days, in a year and allowing for weekends and holidays, that's still parking for about £1 per day. Also, we are retaining the £1 fee for the first hour, which is important because that particularly supports the local economy, local shops and high streets. So there's no change for that. It also helps those users who want to park in town centres, but not only town centres, but out of town parking as well, to enable them to park in those car parks and walk the dog and the like. So there's no change to that one. What was mentioned was, the increasing pressure on on-street parking, but the fact is that our car parking fees remain extremely good value for money. And we still expect our residents and visitors to use the safe and good value NFD car parks as they've had and use them as their choice. Thank you, Chairman.
We now go to the vote on the amendment. All those in favour?
No, too late.
doing the vote now, sorry.
Okay, all those in favour of the amendment moved by Councillor Malcolm Wade and seconded by Councillor Jack Davis? I will count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 in favour of the amendment. Those against, please vote. I will count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. 24 against, so clear majority against the amendment. The amendment fails, Chairman.
Right, thank you. We will now go to the original motion for further debate or vote. Councillor Brand, did you want to talk now?
Chairman, I'm Councillor England, but
Sorry.
I did want to speak on the last motion. I would just like to add for that motion, it's rather latterly for everyone's information before that decision was made, that a lot of the New Forest has been compared with other areas. The New Forest is totally unique and it's got a totally different demographic than Fareham, etc. and Eastleigh. I would just like you to be aware that Lymington has had the blight of the Hampshire County Council meters. And it has also had a knock-on effect by speaking to officers that the town car parks have actually suffered in the uptake. And it has now actually also made a lot of deferred parking or actual residents parking that they can't get out of their property as parking displacement. So in your debate, I wish to add that to the first debate, but I'm adding it to this debate, and is something that needs to be taken seriously because I think an awful lot of other areas haven't quite had the HCC meters installed yet, so they won't be able to speak on the benefit that we can as residents of Lymington, and it has totally made a difference to a lot of the residents and also the shops. Complete drop in footfall. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak, Chairman.
Councillor Davis, please.
Thank you, and thank you, Councillor England, for your point. I just want to bring a bit of reality, because we're now, debating whether or not to put this long stay clock up by £80. I mean, £80 might not be a lot for you, but it is for the residents, or certainly a lot of residents, certainly in Lymington and Pennington, but also in other parts of the forest as well. And it's not just a case of that's £80 spread over the year, because these people will budget for this, and so they'll have to pay out the £220 as a lump sum. So you're then asking people to pay a significant amount, and it's just not realistic for certainly many families in Lymington and Pennington and other places in the forest who are obviously struggling already with increasing bills and increasing energy prices and taxes and everything. So I just think you've got to bring a bit of reality into it. And I know you can say, and you can compare, and you'll all vote for it because you're sheep, but we have a duty to our residents, not just to the council's coffers. Thank you.
Councillor Blunden, please, as the final speaker.
Yeah, if I can just come back on the point. Of course, on the long stay car parking clocks, you can pay for those quarterly. And if I can also come back, and repeat what I said before, that still represents extraordinary good value in parking is less than £1 per day.
Members, we will now go to the vote on the annual fees and charges to 2024 for car parking and key haven moorings from 1 to 5 in the report from Cabinet. All those in favour, please indicate.
I will count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.
Did you get those?
16. So, Chairman, 24 in favour of the substantive motion, 16 against. The substantive motion proceeds.
Carried. Thank you very much. Agenda item 6, report of place and sustainability overview and scrutiny panel, 14th of September. Councillor Rippon-Swain, as the panel chairman, will you introduce this item and move the recommendations in the report relating to the climate and bill from the panel meeting?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to highlight one or two points that the panel actually reviewed this motion in depth, and there was a full discussion on the implications of accepting or rejecting this motion, in the knowledge that, of course, this Conservative Council has adopted its own climate and nature action plan and even appointed a climate and sustainability manager to put that plan into practice. However, if people want to feel of the nature of the discussion, it can be seen in para 9 of the report in your papers. The two main issues that arose during the discussion were that the Climate and Ecology Bill has not had a second reading. It's listed for second reading next month, but I understand that government time has not been allotted to it for its discussion. So it's very much in its early stages. It's capable of considerable change, and it would be inappropriate to actually sort of consider hanging our anchors on it at this stage because of the likelihood of change. The other side of the coin is that the bill's financial implications are not addressed. These two items were of particular concern to members of the panel. So it was with that in mind that I'm pleased to report that the panel agreed unanimously, all parties agreed, to the recommendations to this council in paras 1 of the report, which is namely that we support the bill in principle, but at the same time we set up a task and finish group so we can monitor the progress of that bill through Parliament and actually find the essence of the financial implications, which will be of concern to this council and also will be concerned to the community of the New Forest. Thank you, Chairman.
Councillor Wade, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Just to... Sorry,
that needs to be second.
Mr. Chairman, I'm pleased to second. I'm pleased to second.
Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm pleased to second.
Councillor
Okay.
Wade,
To add a little bit to the chairman of the panel's words there, those of us that supported the motion in its original form weren't going to vote anything that supported it in principle because that would be hypocrisy. The reality was, look at today. Look at the sunshine of October. We've got the hottest year on record. Now, it's all very well to hide behind, oh, it's going to cost loads of money and I'll do this and the other. If we don't do something, it's our future generations that will suffer. This is about tightening up environmental laws to ensure that we do the best we can for future generations. It isn't about spending money because we're not at that stage yet. The idea of having a task and finish group to look how the council responds to the bill is not necessarily a bad idea. I wouldn't disagree with that. But supporting in principle and doing nothing is really like leaving the door open for horses to bolt. I would propose an amendment that we write to our MPs, we have two, and ask them to support the bill. Because we're supporting, if you support the principle, then surely you want to support the principle of the bill being passed. And the detail will come out in future. And we will deal with the detail as and when. But this is not something we can run and hide from. The environment of our planet isn't something you can, oh, don't worry, in 4 years' time when Labour chucks out, it'll be better. I'm sorry, there's no politics in this. This is about the survival of our race, of our future generations. We live in an environmentally sensitive area. Last year, we had extremely hot temperatures and fires in the United Kingdom, like they have in Greece. We don't want to burn the New Forest down, do we? And we say, well, don't worry, we support it in principle, but we're not doing anything. We should, for the benefit of our residents, do all we can to try and protect our sensitive environment. Another 300 odd councils think they should do more. And all we're asking you to do is write to the MPs in support of it. It's not going to cost any money. It's not even going to take a lot of officer time. It's actually turning the support in principle to support in fact. So, Chairman, I'll propose an amendment that we write to both MPs and the organisation Zero in support of this amendment.
Have you got a seconder?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, I certainly would support Councillor Wade in this. Look, it took 2 years for this administration to finally get round to passing a climate emergency. You guys on the other side didn't want to do it. You finally were forced by public opinion to do it. And taking that public opinion, I'd point to 3 members of the Green Party who are sat with us on this side of the chamber, if you like, the straws in the wind for the forest community, that they want us to be seen to do something. It's not going to cost you any money. Your finances, you think, we're asking you to show commitment towards our environment and this new forest. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to second this amendment.
Any other members?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, as this is the time that this chamber should come together. It's actually for our future generations, not what we've done in the past. It's time to reconcile and make things work. And as it's pointed out, we have 2 members in Parliament that we need to lobby to actually get this to work. And I don't think anybody in your constituency would disagree with this motion being put forward to look forward to the generations for their grandchildren and keeping life going in the forest and the surrounding areas. Thank you very much.
Councillor Davis, please.
Thank you. In Pennington, we seem to have, over the summer, a fire on our common almost every other week. And, yes, and it's something that's been playing on my mind for a while, this idea that the climate's getting not just warmer, but in the winter, getting colder. It's climate change, it gets more extreme. And this council was dragged kicking and screaming to declare a climate emergency and actually put in place a climate change action plan. And that was the Lib Dems that initially proposed that. Now, when it comes to supporting the Climate and Nature Ecology Bill, which is going through Parliament at the moment, you're dragging your heels again. And it's all well and good supporting something in principle, but you're not doing anything about it. You're going to set up a task and finish group to monitor its progress. So once the bill gets passed, then you might support it. What's the logic in that? You're supposed to be leading, not following. And so I would be very supportive of Councillor Wade's amendment. I believe that, I'm not sure if the MPs support it at the moment. If they do, great, we write to them and thank them. If they don't, we write to them to urge them to support it. It's a very simple action, and I would quite like to see all members of the council unite in taking that action. I will just come back to the meeting that was held of the committee, because I watched that on YouTube, as I'm loath to do in my spare time. And I was a bit surprised by quite how haphazardly it was run. The motion that was proposed, the motion that was originally put forward by Councillor Wade wasn't voted on. It was a separate proposal by a Conservative councillor.
Councillor, is that relevant?
Sorry?
Is that relevant, what you're saying?
Of course it's relevant. It's the report of the committee. But yet it's the report of the committee. I'm commenting on that committee, debating that report.
Yeah. That's it, okay?
That's it? Sorry.
Yes, that's it.
Okay, yes, sir.
That's enough. Thank you. Come, please.
Thank you. Climate change is here. We took so long to vote on that previous bill and get that through for us at the district to get the climate emergency motion passed. And this particular bill helps us to actually get on track with climate change. We're already there. It's already here. We have fires. We have one of the most biodiverse areas in Europe on our doorstep. And climate change is having a massive impact on it already. So there is absolutely no denying it's here and it's important. This bill will just do something towards helping to sort that out. Every tiny step helps. And why we can't support this, I have absolutely no idea. So I completely agree with Councillor Wade's amendment that we write to the MPs, and I think we should do it as soon as possible. Thank you.
Councillor Glass first, please.
Thank you. 2 points. One, we have already got a climate officer and we've got a climate plan, so we're working on that. And 2 is, if we're already working to a plan, why do we have to vote for something that we don't know what it is? Several people have said, we've got to do something. What are you going to do? Go and light a bonfire? How about buying an electric car? I have, you haven't. Why not work out and find out what we're going to do rather than vote to do something? Because that something could be jump off the end of the pier.
Councillor Heron, please.
Thank you, Chairman. To be quite honest, I've never seen such hypocrisy across the chamber in ages. We started the meeting discussing whether we should put more costs onto people. The opposition were keen to ensure that we had a balanced budget. They were deeply concerned about expenditure. They wanted to worry about cost increases in car parking charges and the effect that it had on the residents. Because that was what was good at that point. That was the in thing to fight about. Now, let's quickly switch over to a new attack and go to hell with the costs. We don't need to see them up front. We don't need to know what it's going to cost. We'll just vote for something that is totally unbudgeted and unfunded. And that, my friend, is how you get into difficulty. What we are saying is that we do support the fact that there is a climate emergency, but that we need to know figures and facts about this, not blindly and hypocritically vote for a single thing. It is staggering that you can vote for it, because actually you very often tell us about the deprivation in the forest and the areas that we do, and you're very keen on supporting that. And yet, repeatedly, I am seeing all this climate emergency, all this funding hit and impact most heavily on the poorest in our society. You only have to look at the expansion of the clean air zone in London. Fine, if you're middle class, middle income, you can go and buy yourself an electric car and you can carry on. But how does it... Yes, but this indeed impacts on people. This will impact on everybody if you push it through without any budgets. And you don't care. You don't care that the fact that the hardest hit by your wonderful middle-class proposal will be the people who are poorest in our society. Do not vote for something that isn't funded. That is the way to ruin.
Councillor Clark first, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I just clarify one point with the Chairman of the committee? I think I heard you say that all councillors on the committee were in accord.
It was a unanimous decision to put this recommendation forward to full council.
Thank you, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that before I went on, Chairman, because, I mean, I've heard the Liberal Democrats saying this isn't about politics, but your own members at this committee actually agreed to this recommendation. So, of course, this is about politics and playing games and wasting time, because here we see the Liberal Democrats not agreeing with the recommendations of their own colleagues. This is ridiculous.
Councillor Murray, please.
Yeah, I'd just like to ask a quick question to the Leader of the Opposition. When was the last time you put your signature at the bottom of a piece of paper before reading the piece of paper? I said, when was the last time you popped your signature on a piece of paper before reading the piece of paper?
Okay. Councillor Wade. As
Chairman,
member of the
clearly Councillor Clark didn't hear me earlier. I was at that meeting, and I said it would have been hypocrisy to vote against supporting the principle, because it would have been. And it's hypocrisy to talk about cost when you've bung car parking charges up. Chairman, this is about writing a letter to MPs to support the bill. It's not about the bill bringing in extra costs to this district council. It's about MPs supporting the bill. If you really care about the forest, you would ask them to do it. We're just asking them to support it. Why is that such a difficult thing for the Conservatives to grasp? It's asking our MPs to support this bill on behalf of the residents of New Forest, because we are in a time of climate change, and if we don't do things differently, there will be a bad future for future generations. But at least we can say we supported something to improve it. That's all it's about.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much again. I think you've all missed the point here. This is not supposed to be a political argument with a budget. We've already endorsed that we have an officer who is looking after climate change. This is something that is paramount. I attended the Local Government Association in Bournemouth pre the pandemic. It was cross-party there, and it was unanimous to take this issue forward and to take it back to central government to get it debated, and this is where the bill has come from to date. This is not asking somebody to sign up to an nth degree of finance not being able to know what it's going to come out of it. This is a fundamental action to be taken and to be good councillors for your constituents, not to have a political battle over the children's future and generations to come. I'll just leave that one here. Thank you.
Now go to the mover of the original motion, Steve Rippon-Swain, please.
Yes, Chairman, I propose the recommendation to Council.
The amendment.
I find it difficult to understand the discussion this evening, having held a panel which was working very hard together and all unanimously agreeing with its conclusion that's now in front of you. And all of a sudden, it seems that matters have changed, probably because we're on visual and audio, and the panel is set secretly and quiet. I'm just disappointed. Thank you.
We'll now vote on the amendment.
Chairman, just to summarise, if I may.
Yeah.
Okay, so the amendment is an addition to what was agreed by the panel, isn't that correct? So, and that is to write to the two local MPs to support the bill in principle, and to the organisation 0 Hour expressing the support of this council. That is the amendment that's made to the original motion, which will now be voted on. Okay,
All those in favour?
Those in favour? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 in favour of the amendment. Those against, please raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. That is a greater number. The amendment is lost, Chairman.
Thank you.
So, Chairman, we're now voting on the substantive motion.
Any other speakers?
Any other speakers?
Okay, no, vote.
Okay. So the motion is on the papers in front of members. Do all those in favour raise their hands, please? Chairman, that is a clear majority vote. Those against? Chairman, that's fine. Move on.
That's carried.
Can I just raise a point of order? Sorry, can I just, Mr. Chairman?
Hello?
Raise a point of order. Can I just raise a point of order? It's a case of procedure, and this is what I was trying to make, the point I was trying to make beforehand. The procedure of the committee didn't allow for the original motion to be proposed. It actually went to a separate proposal. Now, this council, I believe, shouldn't be making separate proposals in committees. it should, when you're discussing an original proposal, that motion has to be either proposed or
Councillor
amended.
Davis, we'll now move on to agenda item 7.
So you're not going to, can you at least note the procedure?
No point of order. Item 7, questions. Members, there are 8 questions. I would like to remind you that standing orders allow for a maximum of 30 minutes in total for questions. Any questions that fall outside of the time limit will be dealt with in writing, and any member asking a question who is not in attendance will have their question dealt with in writing. Each question shall be put and answered without discussion. Each reply should be no longer than 3 minutes. I will invite each member who has asked a question if they have one supplementary question arising from the answer, which should be dealt with in a maximum of 2 minutes. Yeah, question 2. That's it there. That one there. Question 2, isn't it? Yeah. Question 2 from Councillor Brand to portfolio holder for planning and economy, Councillor Tipp.
Thank you. With Prezzo leaving Lintest High Street and another Lintest restaurant closing and going bust last weekend, can the portfolio holder tell us how many businesses have failed in the New Forest in 2022-2023?
Thank you for the question. I'm sorry, but I'm not able to give you that information because we get our information from the Office of National Statistics, and they haven't actually produced the figures for 22 to 23 yet. So it won't be available till approximately November, I believe, so not available at all. In answering the question, though, I will say this point, that business obviously involves risks, as there are so many problems can arise. And if we look at statistics, we must interpret those very, very carefully. So even if we had the statistic, you have to look at what's behind those statistics really to understand the situation. We all know our high streets are undergoing significant changes due to a number of pressures, including online shopping and raised interest rates and inflation and so on. But these are factors that we're obviously disappointed to lose any businesses, but you must understand that can happen in a free market economy.
Councillor Brand, do you have a supplementary question?
Is the council aware of businesses struggling across the district? And if so, what are we doing to help them?
Well, as I said, we are obviously aware of all of the factors that I've just mentioned, and the council is doing all it can to help with free schemes like the Shop Doctor scheme that we put in place, business start-up support schemes that we've run, and there's also the opportunity to bid for funding via the Rural England Prosperity Fund scheme, currently open to bids. So we are doing quite a lot to help business, and we certainly are aware, and we do try to support them. Thank you.
Question 3 from Councillor Malcolm Wade to the Leader of the Council, Councillor Cleary.
Thank you, Chairman. Whilst most members of the armed forces community are healthy, happy and gainfully employed, the unique nature of military life brings with it many challenges that need to be recognised and better understood, and for some, particularly injured and bereaved, for whom extra support needs to be provided. It was to support veterans and military families the Military Covenant was enshrined in law in 2011 Armed Forces Act, and ensures that members of the armed forces community are disadvantaged as a result of their service when accessing government and commercial services. Although some actions do take place in the New Forest District to support military families, currently the New Forest District Council does not meet the full breadth of requirements outlined in the Military Covenant and its guidance for local authorities. Therefore, can you confirm that this council will put in place such actions as are necessary to meet the full criteria for the District Council under the Act? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, which is timely, as a review of the Council's Armed Forces Community Covenant is already well underway, with the Council's Executive Management Team due to consider a report later this month. The Council has a strong track record working with the Armed Forces community, having entered into the Armed Forces Community Covenant with HQ Solent Station in May 2013. The Community Covenant is an additional voluntary statement of mutual support between a civilian community and its local armed forces community. It supplements the statutory Armed Forces Covenant, which outlines the moral obligation between the nation, the government, and the armed forces at a local level. The Council has due regard to the principles of the statutory Armed Forces Covenant when exercising their relevant functions, and the significant range of activity takes place across the Council. The Council is a forces-friendly employer. We have an HR policy for reservists, helping them meet their training requirements. We advertise employment opportunities on the Ministry of Defence's Career Transition website, and I'm pleased to report that we have just had our first successful recruitment through this website for a gas engineer. In communities, we work closely with the 17 Port and Maritime Regiment's community development worker, who is part of the Army Welfare Service. Working with HQ Solent Station, we have recently delivered the artificial turf pitch at Applemore College with the council contribution of £50,000 towards the cost. In housing and homelessness, we work with those who are leaving the armed forces throughout their homelessness pathway, as well as ensuring appropriate signposting to relevant support agencies. And, most importantly, in terms of our statutory duty, our allocations policy ensures our duty of care is met through disregarding compensation received for injury or disability, exemption from the local connection requirement, and automatic placement into Band 3. We have a long-standing civic commitment to the armed forces in the district, having awarded Freedom of the District to 17 Port and Maritime Regiment RLC in 2016. Our civic commitments also include the marking of Armed Forces Day and Armistice and Remembrance Sunday commemorations, with the work of our Armed Forces member champion who supports the chairman at these events. Finally, I am delighted to inform members that the Council has recently been nominated by a newly employed veteran for the Defence Employer Recognition Scheme. This scheme encourages employers to support defence and inspires others to do the same. The review underway will reflect on this wide range of activity, of which I have given just a small snapshot, bringing it together in one place. I hope this will shine a light on all this Council already does, whilst looking to other opportunities to enhance, and I will bring forward an update to Cabinet in due course.
Councillor Wade, do you have a supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Can I request, on behalf of the many veterans, their families and serving personnel and their families, that these new actions that you're looking at can be carried out as soon as possible so any needs can be met in the future?
Absolutely, fully agree with that one.
Question 4 from Councillor Clark to the portfolio holder for Finance and Corporate, Councillor Heron.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is the Council content with this due diligence process before awarding large contracts to external companies?
Thank you. The Council has a process, documented process and robust process in awarding contracts, and I am comfortable with that process and can assure you that we do follow it and the contracts are awarded in accordance with it.
Councillor Clark, do you have a supplementary?
I do have. You not be surprised. Sure you'll not be surprised it's about your favourite external contractor, Freedom Leisure. Who've got a 1.5 out of 5 rating on Trustpilot. On Indeed, based on internal staff reviews, they've had 2 out of 5. And through my own organisation, we've been in touch with lots of authorities, and wheelbarrows of cash have been delivered to Freedom Leisure to keep those facilities open. I'm not even sure that my local facility in Applemore is quite open altogether yet. But my point to you, and I'll come into the question, notwithstanding the 1.5 million that this authority gave to Freedom Leisure, and this was after the original proposed £750,000 bailout was withdrawn, after presumably somebody finally read the fine print of the contract about bailouts. In our briefing pack, in January 2021, those councillors that were here at that time, we were told a management fee would be paid by Freedom Leisure to NFDC, and that this council would be better off by £704,000 per annum. I don't think I've seen, as an aside, a larger font ramming that point home in the briefing pack. So the projected sums would be over 10 years, 8.2 million. So how much has Freedom Leisure actually contributed net in the 2 years since the award?
Over to you, Jeremy. Chairman, I can't answer that in pounds. Perhaps if it had been put in the initial question, I could have looked up the answer to that question, but as normal, it is being put on as a sort of attempt to trap us on this. What I can say is that when we awarded the contract, it was pre-COVID, an occurrence that has never been seen before.
It wasn't pre-COVID. 2 of us resigned from that task and finished, but saying exactly the point, we shouldn't award this in the middle of a pandemic.
Councillor Clark.
Jim, the contracts were discussed and arranged pre-COVID. The signing was once COVID had hit. What I will say, and I won't tread on my colleagues' toes because there are a number of questions about this, is the fact that we still have all our leisure centres open, something that a considerable number of councils up and down the country are reviewing, and that it is a darn sight easier for someone to learn to swim if there is a swimming pool in their town than there is if there isn't. And had we not awarded this contract, I think that we would have been in a position where we were discussing the potential closure of a number of our leisure centres. So although it did not go as smoothly as it did, as one would hope, but life doesn't go that way, I am delighted that we chose to partner with Freedom Leisure, a non-profit organisation. So when everyone starts wittering about the fact that they're doing it for money, that is not correct. They are not doing it so they can make massive profits, something that people like to think of. And I am delighted because it has ensured that we continue to have leisure centres spread out across our district, and our residents can learn to swim because they have a swimming pool to do that in. Thank you.
Question 5. Safety and Wellbeing, Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. Why did Conservative councillors, when agreeing the contract for the leisure service, give Freedom Leisure the power to evict local swimming clubs from their leisure centres after 12 months?
Thank you for your question. In agreeing to entering into the contract with Freedom Leisure, members of this council were aware of the need for Freedom to be able to make operational decisions for the running of our 5 leisure centres. Safeguards were built in to ensure the club's bookings were maintained for a period of 12 months. This contract addition was welcomed by the clubs, who were fully consulted during the transition to Freedom Leisure, and so had full awareness of this position at the time of the contract commencement. As all members will know, Freedom have paused any decisions on changes to the swim club bookings until further dialogue and consultation has taken place. Senior officers and I are liaising with Freedom over this issue and will look to reach consensus as far as possible.
Mr Davies, do you have a supplementary question?
So, you were aware that Freedom were planning to evict clubs from the leisure centres after 12 months then?
I didn't say that. The contract allowed for 12 months for the protection of the leisure centres in place.
So why would the contract agree that if you weren't aware?
He's answered the question, Councillor Davies.
No, he hasn't.
Have you got a supplementary or not? That was it, was it? Alex Way to the portfolio holder for community safety and wellbeing, Councillor Paul.
Thank you, Chairman. As I understand, the Council has a responsibility to undertake equality impact assessments on all its decisions. Why was this not considered when Freedom Leisure, our partners, made the unpopular and upsetting decision to tell local swimming clubs they could no longer use their pools and stop access for many children with special and specific needs to learn this essential life skill in an appropriate environment? And why didn't you use the opportunity as the portfolio holder to challenge this decision when you were made aware and engage with Freedom if access to swimming for all ages and abilities really matters? Thank you.
Freedom Leisure teach over 63,000 children per week how to swim. They have over 4,700 children learning to swim at the 5 New Forest leisure centres. They exclusively deliver Learn to Swim programmes to children with a variety of needs at the significant majority of sites they operate. They know what they are doing when it comes to teaching children and adults to swim. I do accept that their initial decision gave notice to the swimming clubs who are operating Learn to Swim should have been better consulted on, so I'm pleased that they have paused on any decisions on changes to the swim club bookings. I would like to remind the Councillor that one of the key drivers in the change of operational model was not only to protect the provision of the Council's 5 leisure centres across the district, but to enhance them. I believe we are incredibly lucky to have a partner who has delivered nearly £3 million in capital investment in our centres, meaning they are a more diverse community facility than ever before.
Councillor Way, do you have a supplementary question?
Chairman. Thank you, Councillor Paul. As you're well aware, the decision has been pretty universally unpopular and, frankly, many find it heartless. Why did you then, or Freedom, not acknowledge this issue during the Housing and Communities panel a few weeks ago, or respond to the concerned club members and members of the public who are genuinely upset at this decision that I understand have written to you? And can we trust that you will represent the families and volunteers devastated by this decision as Freedom review it, or will you let Freedom remove more long-standing and valued clubs?
I'm glad you asked that question, although I don't think it was wise of you, given that not one single member of the Lib Dem opposition turned up to that overview and scrutiny panel when there was a first-hand opportunity to question the area manager of Freedom. There were 3 members of that committee who weren't there, but of course, as we all know, any councillor can attend any meeting and ask questions, so I'm not prepared to accept this hypocrisy.
Hold up, please. Question 7 from Councillor Rackham to the portfolio holder for community safety and wellbeing, Councillor Paul.
Thank you. The contract for Freedom Leisure was described by the then chair of the Task and Finish group as robust in view of detail, and it was voted for by every Conservative member then present, some of whom are here today. What can be done to make sure the awful behaviour towards our swimming and other community clubs cannot continue or to be replicated in the future?
As I have already commented, the clubs were engaged in the consultation process when the Council was considering its options in order to protect the provision of its 5 leisure centres. The clubs, as with the cross-party Task and Finish group, were fully aware of the 12-month booking protection offered within the contract. That 12-month protection expired in June 2022. I'll say for the 3rd time now, I'm pleased that they have paused any decisions on changes to the swim club bookings, and I look forward to working with Freedom to ensure the needs of all swimming club members are catered for under any new alternative proposal.
Councillor Rackham, do you have a supplementary question?
I do. Just because the clubs knew that they would only have 12 months, it didn't make it okay. Can the portfolio holder please tell me how many other groups and clubs have been asked to leave the leisure facilities or had times cut since Freedom Leisure took over as a result of this defective contract which allows Freedom Leisure to freely cut these groups? Thank you.
I am not aware of any further clubs other than the ones currently known, and can I just reiterate again, recently the Chief Executive was at a meeting elsewhere in the country where chief executives were wondering which centres to keep open. I'm proud to say we have 9 swimming pools in 5 centres that are open for business.
Second questions. Question 8 from Councillor Rackham to the portfolio holder for planning and economic, Councillor Tipp.
Thank you. Can the portfolio holder please outline how NFDC responded to the recent suggested permitted development legislation, which would allow shops, offices and outbuildings to be turned into housing with no structured plan or infrastructure?
Yes, I think you may be referring to some changes that came in over 2 years ago in August 2021. There was a more recent consultation this year that proposed extending permitted development change of use rights to land in national parks, which I know you are aware of, as we are both national park members. But if you want to find out more about that, you have to look at your national park papers, and the answer's there.
Councillor Rackham, do you have a supplementary question?
Well, obviously, yes, I know it was the National Park Authority issue as well, but it did apply to extra additional buildings that will be allowed through permitted development everywhere. So it's a shame that there doesn't appear to have been any answer to that consultation. Were this to go ahead, and would the council be able to help parishes with infrastructure costs and maintenance, which would previously have been covered by the SIL and 106 monies, because those will be lost?
Well, I obviously can't give a blanket commitment to proposals that haven't been put forward yet, so I can't promise that, I'm afraid.
Members, that concludes the list of questions under this item. Agenda item 8, notice of motion. Members, in accordance with Standing Order 42.2, I will allow this motion to be dealt with this evening, as I do consider it to be convenient and conclude to the dispatch of business. Caroline Rackham, sorry, Councillor, I invite you to move your motion.
Thank you. This council recognises the nature of any decisions it makes in relation to finance, crime and the environment in how it impacts the current residents of the district. But it does not consider the impact on future generations of residents or the young people of today of these and any other factors. This council notes the youth of today are the electors of tomorrow, whose views on how the council manages the district are vitally important. So it's essential that policies and plans take into account additional generational factors, such as social, environmental and well-being changes, as well in relation to the next generations of council taxpayers. The council recognises other local and regional governments take this into account already, including the Welsh Synod, and encourage young people to be part of the democratic process, which will shape their world by encouraging active participation and contribution. Therefore, I propose every decision taken by New Forest District Council is considered in terms of the impact of future generations, in the same way that decisions are considered in terms of impact regarding environment, finance and crime. In many ways, we are caretakers of our district, hoping to improve life for our residents, but leave our district a better place for future generations. But questions regarding the impact of decisions we make now on future residents are not asked. We're not usually told about the impact on future generations as part of our discussions, unless there is a particular relevance. Portfolio holders currently do not need to record that impact on the decision outlines. I would suggest that our decisions should be specifically considered in terms of their impact on generations into the future, to ensure we're not leaving our future residents with poor decisions made for short-term purposes. Other local and regional governments take this into account already, including the Welsh Synod, and if we are to encourage young people to be part of the democratic process, which will shape their world, we surely need to start by considering how our own decisions will impact on future generations.
Councillor Jack Davis, I understand you will second.
Yes, I will. And may I speak now?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Thank you. I am obviously very much in favour of this. I believe I am the youngest councillor. I might be doing Councillor Murray a disservice here. But you look, you do look younger than me, I suppose. And that is a service to yourself. But I will be in very big support of this motion because, at the end of the day, our future generations matter. We are a council which I think all of us do want to make sure that future generations are safeguarded. We are in a situation where a lot of decisions that are being taken by central government in terms of how they impact local government are adversely impacting younger generations. We know with planning decisions such as the police station in Lymington, for example. That's a prime example of where decisions are being made that are impacting young people, and actually I think we should be, as a council, quite against that. So I would be fully in favour of this, and I hope it's a cross-party universal agreement, because all it is an extra bit at the end of a policy paper that just says how a decision might impact young people. And I think it's just a pretty common sense thing to do. So I'm fully in support of it. Thank you.
Members, I will now open this to debate. Councillor Jill Cleary, please.
Thank you.
Is he here as well?
Yes, I know. He's taking his time, isn't he? Future generations in the context of our place is an emerging key theme within the new corporate plan. So there will be the opportunity for good discussion on this as the corporate plan comes forward through the decision-making process.
Thank you. The Council has a long-term view as part of its Climate and Nature Action Plan. This is all about future generations.
Thank you, Chairman. In my portfolio, of course, we're always looking ahead because we've got the local plan that's reviewed every 5 years and looks ahead 20 years. So clearly we are looking at future generations there. Also, in our regeneration programme that we're looking at now, we are front and centre, we're looking at future generations. So I believe that this is fully catered for within what we are now doing. Thank you.
Councillor Glass, please.
Thank you. This motion, I think, implies that we're not doing this at the moment, whereas all councillors, we think about our kids, grandkids, and even great-grandkids in my case. We have to think of the future. As we've said, we've got forward plans and that sort of thing. But also, by saying that we should think about the young, obviously we should, but we should think about all the minorities, the disabled, in fact, the community. We should act for the whole community, which I believe we already do. So I think this is just so much fluff that it's wasting our time to even discuss it.
Councillor Clark, please.
Thank you, Chairman. As Chairman of Housing, I'm proud to say that this council has been adopting and producing policies which automatically take account of our future generations as well as the current generations. We have a target to achieve 600 new council properties within this administration. Those houses will be for the current generations and for the generations to come. Not only social housing though, we're looking to deliver affordable housing so that young people can have their own homes. in which to raise the children of the future. This includes starter homes, shared ownership, affordable rental properties. But for future generations, it's not just good enough to build or bring them into existence. They have to be sustainable and fit for purpose for those that will live in them over the generations. Our council houses are built to the highest standards and will contribute to our achieving net zero with the installation of heat pump boilers, PV panels and EV points. This makes them fit for purpose, not only for those who live in them today, but also for those to come. We could rest on our laurels at that, but we want to be dynamic and innovative. Dynamic means bringing all our council houses up to future standard, so that our children live in the best possible conditions. We are therefore investing in families who live and will live in our properties by retrofitting older properties and making sure that financial investment is fit for purpose. Innovative, we have looked at how our housing stock can be greener and how we can ameliorate climate change. A newly announced Task and Finish group will, amongst other things, consider alternative build methods and materials, all with the future in mind. In summary, the ethos of this council is all about looking to the future and those generations who will benefit. This motion doesn't need to be put.
Councillor Paul, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Our approach in my portfolio is all about creating vibrant communities for the future, including our new emerging cultural strategy.
Councillor Way, please.
Thank you. And I speak as dangerously near 40, but still in the youth wing of this council. I'm so grateful for Jack and Ian being on the council, frankly. The reason I support this motion is that it doesn't take away from what the council already exists and already achieves. That's not in question. It's about sometimes, I don't feel this council is necessarily the best representative of the people in New Forest, because we're not. We don't have a good gender split, and our average age is probably older than the people we overall represent. And there's sometimes a danger that we don't always take into account the people in our community of all ages and backgrounds. Even I probably didn't pick up the issues about overgrown footpaths until I had a child pushing a pushchair. So sometimes taking things into account for particularly the younger residents who hopefully will live, work and love in our communities as we get older doesn't hurt, and I don't think it's a dramatic change to what we do, but it's important that we acknowledge it in every decision and take into account the future of the forest. Thank you.
Councillor Armstrong, please.
Thank you, Chairman. I was particularly grateful when we had the open discussion about the corporate plan that we could all put into that. And I remember the evening that I was there, we spent quite a bit of time talking about youth at that actual meeting. You know, I'm interested in all ages and always have been. And even just before this meeting, I was on the governor of a local school, and they were talking about one of the things that they're doing in their school, talking about local democracy. And I was quite thrilled to hear that as part of their agenda, as their timetable in the school. And that should be encouraged. And I think all councillors should be part of things like that, where they can, because we're looking at the whole population, not just the youth, so it's a whole thing. I'm looking out for people from young to old as a councillor, and that's something that we should all be doing. But to say youth's not on the agenda or whatever, it certainly was. That evening I went along to, any councillors could come to talk about the corporate plan. And so I was thrilled at that. But to look at anything out of context, there's a balance to how we all as councillors look at all ages. We're elected, you know, by the people, for the people, and that to me includes all ages.
Councillor Hilary Brown, please.
I think this would just serve as a reminder to all of us when we're looking at things to have the younger generation in mind and youth. If we had this on the bottom of our planning, we might have had some policies that said we would have less homes for the elderly and more for the young, and therefore we could perhaps get more housing through that we need. Also in the HR, we might have had more young people coming through and not have such an ageing workforce in the New Forest District Council as well. So I just think it's there to serve as a reminder that when we are looking at implementing things or making decisions, that we are looking at the whole of our community, because I do think sometimes that gets missed. And it's not a fault of anybody, it's just a fact that if it's there on a bit of paper as something that we have to review, it would get done.
Councillor Malcolm Wade, please.
Thank you, Chairman. This is probably one of the most unpolitical items on the agenda. Yet it seems to be in two armed camps. This council is not representative of all the people, like Councillor Glass says. The age demographic alone points to that fact. The young are not engaged with politics on the bigger scene or even in the little scene, because we don't take them into consideration. What this is about, members, it's about looking at the implications of what we do in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. Particularly affects planning, and it affects a number of other things. It's the impact on our communities, on their vitality, their economy. There's an old saying, fail to plan, plan to fail. Yes, this council looks at a lot of issues, and it looks at some multi-generational issues at all, but it doesn't take them into account across the board. And what this motion is asking us to do is to give it the same loading of a future generation as crime and disorder, the climate, and so forth. But you're denying that. What message does that send to the young of the New Forest if you don't support it? There's no cost in this. You can't use a cost argument. There's no political background to this. This is just speaking on behalf of the younger generations, and we should tell them that this council cares about the future for them, and we want to look at all aspects, how it will impact them. That's all. So I support this motion, and I hope, members, you will take off the political banner and support it.
Councillor Herring, please.
Thank you, Chairman. When I joined this council, one councillor had a favourite saying. It was that the young people of New Forest made up 50% of the population, but 100% of our future. Something that I have continued to believe and think about every time I make a decision on this council. But when I see this motion, I must ask how far into the future someone is looking. Are they looking into the future of generations, or are they looking 18 to 24 months forward and raising their political profile in the prospects that there may be a general election in the future? Chairman, we have a lot of things on the bottom. We have a lot of things to consider when we make a decision. Young people, environment, just to name but two. Financial. If we add everything that we consider when making a decision to the bottom of our list and put a report, our officers are going to have to increase the volume of time that they spend typing innocuous statements for no good reason. I feel that this motion adds nothing at all to what we do as councillors, and everything to bureaucracy and promoting more hot air in this chamber. I therefore do not support this motion in any form whatsoever.
Thank you. Back now to Caroline Rackham as the final speaker on this.
Thank you. I'm really disappointed to hear that the future generations that we're considering, that is no good reason for officers to be typing an extra couple of sentences on decision-making reports. That's very disappointing. What I'm heartened by is all this amazing work that I didn't know was going on in the portfolios. The reason we don't know it's going on is because it's not talked about on the decisions. Risk, crime and the environment are all considered in those decisions. Why are we not considering those decisions in terms of future generations? So we're not just talking about youth and young people. Although that is part of it, what we're talking about is much further ahead than that. We were all young once, and only a couple of us are still young. Most of us are getting on a bit, and quite frankly, every young person that we have in our district at the moment will grow. This is for future generations. It's not just for young people at the moment. This is to look closely at the impact of the decisions we make into the future, for future generations with an S. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Members, the motion has been moved, seconded and debated. All those in favour, please indicate.
Count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. Chairman, 12 in favour of the motion.
Those against?
Chairman, that is clearly a larger number, so that motion fails.
Okay.
Confirm that the motion's failed.
Yeah, that's against. Has failed. Agenda item 9, membership of committees and panels. Do the groups have any changes to make to their nominations to committees and panels? Councillor Paul.
None, Chairman.
Councillor Malcolm Wade.
Yes, Chairman, thank you. Councillor Rackham to come off Housing and Communities to be replaced by Councillor Brand, and Councillor Brand to come off Audit to be replaced by Councillor Rackham.
Councillor Armstrong.
Changes, Chairman.
No changes. Councillor Richards.
No changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 10, any other items which the Chairman decides are urgent? There are none. Thank you everyone for attending this evening, and I declare the meeting closed.